Doc, what do you think, based on the data, was the main factor in us moving from managing it effectively to where we are today?
Well, I don't think it was a managing effectively story. I believe we just lucked out and we didn't get the P1 variant or any other worse variant, or we didn't mutate and have a variant that caused disease and death at the levels that we're seeing. Our borders are still porous. We have free flow of people into this country from South America, where there is one of the largest outbreaks. Argentina's rate also looks like this right now, by the way. So they're getting a lot of flow from Brazil, as is most of the South American and Latin American countries, and I guess us. So, I mean, I think it's a combination. What we did in the beginning was very good in that we locked down very quickly, and that kind of kept us isolated for as long as nobody else came in from another unprotected border with something. And that's what we're seeing. So what I think the government has done well, and we as a people have done well, is the initial reactions, right? Post that, I think it's a lot of COVID fatigue that we're seeing. People just kind of got fed up, especially before Easter, and started just throwing caution to the wind, walking around without masks, because they're like, we have no numbers down to like 0.1, 0.2 back in March. That was looking like nothing. It was basically flatline. We weren't doing a lot of testing either. So we may have had asymptomatic people. Now, that's a very important point. And that's why I always tell you, always treat everybody you meet as if they are COVID-19 infected, because almost 80% of the people we know can be asymptomatic with disease. So these people don't go get tested because they don't feel that they have disease unless they've been told that they've been exposed or they've been contact traced, right? The system in Trinidad is extremely overtaxed right now with testing. I don't know how efficient the contact tracing is. However, if you know you've been exposed to somebody who has a positive, go and get tested. I urge you to go and get tested so we can at least get you counted and get those numbers in. Whether or not you have severe disease or not, at least let's get those numbers in so we can get an actual true picture of what's happening. At the same breath, we have to increase sequencing. There's only one group doing it. UTT is trying to assist with that as a certain private groups to try to get those numbers of people being sequenced, or the numbers of viral samples being sequenced. And that is important because we need to know what variants we have at what numbers, right? In terms of, like exactly, and then also to...
Do we have any idea now how pervasive the Brazilian variant is?
I haven't seen the data a lot. A couple of weeks ago, they were reporting 364 or something samples tested, and I don't even remember how many were positive for P1 at this point. I don't have access to it. That's being controlled by UE, that particular project. We're trying to help where we can by increasing that capacity, and that's what I'm working on right now. Trying to get that sequencing data done as fast as we can and assist with that.
Do we also have a sense of what percentage of the population, given the present rates, may be infected?
I really, it would be a total wild guess. But I think you can assume from it looking like this, from literally this, that something has happened in terms of the variants that we have. Not only are they more transmissible, they're more virulent, and they cause more severe disease and death. And that is the worrying thing. Whether or not it's the original P1, we don't know. The P1 in Brazil has been reported of having 14 mutations in the last publication I read. So it's already mutated to the point where they have 14 recorded mutations just in the spike protein. So that's crazy, right? Because then we assuming that the vaccines are going to cover us for as many mutations as we can cover, but then complaining when it doesn't, because it's a stretch for them to be able to conserve a region of sequence so greatly that no mutations will be able to affect how that antibodies produce and those kinds of things, right? So the key point here is not really what mutations we have, what causing what variants we have, or whether or not it is rampant in the population. The only way out is through vaccination. We can't handle the numbers in the healthcare system. We can't. They are struggling, and we have to be very, very cognizant that we have to do what we can and control our situation. So what can you do? You can double mask. You can stay indoors. You could, just completely follow the rules given to you by the government of Trinidad and Tobago and the healthcare services and the Ministry of National Security and all of that. Stay in your house. Treat every single person you meet outside of your bubble. And your bubble has to be your house, not your auntie house and your grandma house and your girlfriend house and your neighbor down the road. You go by them all the time. I hear those stories all the time. You can't have a bubble that has 15 people in it. Your bubble has to, unless of course you have 15 people living in your house, which is in some cases that's true. But your bubble cannot expand beyond that one place where you live, sleep, brush your teeth, eat your food. That is your bubble, right? And I think that is what people are not understanding. You can't walk down the road normally and go and check your partners. I mean, now they actually came so much as to say no exercising because people were abusing it so much, hiking and whatever with large groups of people all over the place. You can't do that kind of stuff. You have to be responsible. So you can control your own little world. You can control the people who will not get vaccinated for months at this rate. The children, the older people who are immunocompromised, those kinds of things, they probably won't be vaccinated for a while. You cannot bring that home to your house. I always tell you that if you're fighting a war, you ain't going to say, hey, partner, come on. I mean, this is my enemy, but I'm going to show you where I live in so you can come back later and kill all of us. You won't do that. Similarly, you must block it off and lock it off and act like if every single person is an enemy at this point because they're carrying the enemy, not they themselves, but they're carrying an enemy that could actually cause severe disease and death to you and your family.
What do you think is the most dangerous misunderstanding, interpretation, or misconception about this disease?
That it was made up, number one, in that people feel that there's always an ulterior motive for the people who are presenting the data. And I think that is intrinsically the most dangerous thing because then you're met with skeptical views that are just skeptical for being skeptical's sake. It's not really based on the reality of what is being given. So I could give you the most scientific research article that's been published and peer-reviewed and has 400 people signing on to the source and saying yes, this is true. And people would say, no, that's not true. I'm going to watch this guy on YouTube who broadcasting from his living room in his pajamas because he said he used to work for Pfizer. And I believe him. I don't believe what you and your 400 experts are saying. And you can't fight that with logic. Unfortunately, you can't. I could present anything in the world. I could present graphs. I could present, people who come to talk. Look at poor Fauci. Oh my God. In the beginning, nobody would listen to him. Nobody, he was just on TV constantly and people were like, oh God, what, this little short man come back here again. And it's the same kind of thing. You become desensitized to the information. And I think as Trinidadians, we are programmed to tis anything we hear. Anything you hear is automatic. That's not true. Unless it's some crazy tale being told to you by someone else that doesn't have even an iota of truth. And then that getting forwarded a million times, right? Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, this girl telling me how she sat up next to this person who's vaccinated and her period stopped. So it must be true because some random girl tell you that, right? Next person was like, yes, these vaccines causing erectile dysfunction. And that kind of stupidness, the 5G thing. I don't even know how the 5G thing's supposed to work out. If they injecting you with a transponder, I don't know. I can't even understand that. I can't understand that concept. To me, it is so foreign that someone will accept something like that, or much more apt to accept something like that is so far-fetched in reality than the basic truth, which is we have this virus. It jumps species because of irresponsible behavior of humans and humanity as usual. However, now we have to deal with it. The way we deal with it is XYZ. Block the entry with mask wearing like this, because this is the only way the virus can get into your respiratory system. It can't pass anywhere else in your body. So you have to give a physical barrier. So I talked about this in my UTT lectures quite extensively, and I mentioned it to you earlier today, and you could probably look it up on the UTT COVID-19 link, right, on YouTube. It's on YouTube now. It's a series of 5 lectures. But there's one graph that one illustration I show all the time, and it shows the virus progression through its life cycle and the ways we could stop it at different points. The first one